The story of Sinuhe, also referred to as Sanehat. This audio presentation is read and voiced by Shakim Ra. It is provided to the public by Ra University. The story of Sinuhe is a work of ancient Egyptian literature. It was likely composed in the beginning of the 12th dynasty after the death of Amenemhat I, also referred to as Senwerset I. The tale describes an Egyptian man who flees his kingdom and lives as a foreigner before returning to Egypt shortly before his death. It explores universal themes such as divine providence and mercy. The oldest known copy of the text dates to the reign of Amenemhat III around 1800 BCE. The work was so popular within Egypt that newer copies have been found ranging up to 750 years after the original. The story of Sinuhe is written in verse and opens with a wording similarly stylized like other autobiographical coffin texts that are common in Middle Kingdom Egyptian tombs. Theoretically, the story of Sinuhe would have been inscribed on his supposed tomb. Sinuhe flees away from Egypt, sneaks past guards, crosses the Lake Ma'ati, and sets out for foreign lands. He begins his new life and attempts to establish an identity among a culture he is unfamiliar with. The tale is notable for its age, as well as the popularity of the story in ancient history. It explores themes and morals that were a part of Egyptian ideals, such as order and chaos, or identity and the soul. It is your spirit, perfected God, Lord of the two lands, which is loved by the sun god and favored by Montu, Lord of Thebes. He then goes on to list several gods in his praise. This form of writing is common in the Middle Kingdom letters, and is another indication of Sinuhe only being able to experience Egyptian culture in direct connection to Egypt. Parallels have been made between the biblical narrative of Joseph and the story of Sinuhe. In what is seen as divine providence, Sinuhe the Egyptian flees to Canaan and becomes a member of the ruling elite, acquires a wife and a family before being reunited with his Egyptian family. Parallels have also been drawn from other biblical texts. The Hebrew prophet Jonah's frustrated flight from the orbit of God's power is likened to Sinuhe's similar flight from the king. The battle between David and Goliath is compared to Sinuhe's fight with the mighty challenger whom he slays with a single blow, and the parable of the prodigal son is likened to Sinuhe's return home. The story of Sinuhe. Translation by Miriam Lathim. Page 222 of Ancient Egyptian Literature, The Middle Kingdom. The prince, count, governor of the domains of the sovereign in the lands of the Asiatics, true and beloved friend of the king, the attendant Sinuhe says, I was an attendant who attended his lord, a servant of the royal harem, waiting on the princess, the highly praised royal wife of King Setrasis and Kenemsut, the daughter of King Amenemhet and Neferu the revered. Year 30, third month of the inundation, day 7. The god ascended to his horizon. The king of Upper and Lower Kemet, Teheti-Pep-Ra, flew to heaven and united with the sun disk, the divine body, merging with its maker. Then the residence was hushed, hearts grieved. The great portals were shut, The courtiers were head on knee. The people moaned. His Majesty, however, had dispatched an army to the land of Jemme, with his eldest son as its commander, the good Setrasis. He had been sent to smite the foreign lands and to punish those of Jenehu. Now, he was returning, bringing captives of the Jenehu and cattle of all kinds beyond number. The officials of the palace sent to the western border to let the king's son know the event that had occurred at the court. The messengers met him on the road, reaching him at night. Not a moment did he delay. The falcon flew with his attendants without letting his army know it. But the royal sons who had been with him on this expedition had also been sent for. One of them was summoned while I was standing there. I heard his voice as he spoke while I was in the near distance. My heart fluttered, my arms spread out, a trembling befell all my limbs. I removed myself in leaps to seek a hiding place. I put myself between two bushes so as to leave the road to its traveler. I set out southward. I did not plan to go to the residence. I believed there would be turmoil, but did not expect to survive it. I crossed Ma'ati near Sycamore. I reached the Isle of Seneferu. I spent the day there at the edge of the cultivation. Departing at dawn, I encountered a man who stood on the road. He saluted me while I was afraid of him. At dinner time, I reached Cattle Quay. I crossed in a barge without a rudder by the force of the west wind. I passed to the east of the quarry, at the height of the mistress of the Red Mountain. Then I made my way northward. I reached the walls of the ruler, which were made to repel the Asiatics and to crush the sandfarers. I crouched in a bush for fear of being seen by the guard on duty upon the wall. I set out at night. At dawn, I reached Patin. I halted at Isle of Kimware. An attack of thirst overtook me. I was parched. My throat burned. I said, "This is the taste of death." I raised my heart and collected myself when I heard the lowing sound of cattle and saw Asiatics. One of their leaders who had been in Egypt recognized me. He gave me water and boiled milk for me. I went with him to his tribe. What they did for me was good. Land gave to me land. I traveled to Byblos. I returned to Kedem. I spent a year and a half there. Then Amenenshi, the ruler of Upper Retinue, took me to him, saying to me, "You will be happy with me. You will hear the language of Egypt." He said this because he knew my character and had heard of my skill. Egyptians who were with him having borne witness for me. He said to me, "Why have you come here? Has something happened at the residence?" I said to him, "King Seheti Pibra departed to the horizon, and one did not know the circumstances." But I spoke in half-truths. When I returned from the expedition to the land of Jemme, it was reported to me, and my heart grew faint. It carried me away on the path of flight. Though I had not been talked about, no one had spat in my face. I had not heard a reproach. My name had not been heard in the mouth of the herald. I do not know what brought me to this country. It is as if planned by God, as if a Delta man saw himself in Yebu, a marsh man in Nubia. Then he said to me, "How then is that land without that excellent God, fear of whom was throughout the lands like Sakmet in the year of plague?" I said to him in reply, "Of course, his son has entered into the palace, having taken his father's heritage. He is a god without peer. No other comes before him. He is Lord of knowledge, wise planner, skilled leader. One goes and comes by his will. He was the smiter of foreign lands. While his father stayed in his palace, he reported to him on commands carried out. He is a champion who acts with his arm, a fighter who has no equal, who, when seen engaged in archery, when joining the melee. Horned cuber who makes hands turn weak, his foes cannot close ranks. Keen-sighted he smashes foreheads, none can withstand his presence. Wide striding he smites the fleeing, no retreat for him who turns him his back. Steadfast in time of attack, he makes turn back and turns not his back. Stout-hearted when he sees the mass, he lets not slackness fill his heart. Eager at the sight of combat, joyful when he works his bow. Clasping his shield, he treads underfoot. No second blow needed to kill. None can escape his arrow. None can turn aside his bow. The bowmen flee before him. As before the night of the goddess, as he fights, he plans the goal, unconcerned about all else. Lord of grace, rich in kindness, he is conquered through affection. His city loves him more than itself, acclaims him more than its own God. Men outdo women in hailing him, now that he is king, victor while yet in the egg, set to be ruler since his birth. Augmenter of those born with him, he is unique, God-given, happy the land that he rules. Enlarger of frontiers, he will conquer southern lands, while ignoring northern lands, though made to smite Asiatics and tread on sandfarers. Send to him, let him know your name as one who inquires while being far from his majesty. He will not fail to do good to a land that will be loyal to him. He said to me, well then, Egypt is happy knowing that he is strong, but you are here. You shall stay with me. What I shall do for you is good. He set me at the head of his children. He married me to his eldest daughter. He let me choose for myself of his land, of the best that was his, on his border with another land. It was a good land called Ya'ah. Figs were in it and great. It had more wine than water. Abundant was its honey, plentiful its oil. All kinds of fruit were on its trees. Barley was there and emmer, and no end of cattle of all kinds. Much also came to me because of the love of me, for he had made me chief of a tribe in the best part of his land. Loaves were made for me daily, and wine as daily fare, cooked meat, roast fowl, as well as desert game. For they snared for me and laid it before me, in addition to the catch of my hounds. Many sweets were made for me, and milk dishes of all kinds. I passed many years, my children becoming strong men, each a master of his tribe. The envoy who came north or west, south to the residence stayed with me. I let everyone stay with me. I gave water to the thirsty. I showed the way to him who had strayed. I rescued him who had been robbed. When Asiatics conspired to attack the rulers of hill countries, I opposed their movements. For this ruler of retinue made me carry out numerous missions as commander of his troops. Every hill tribe against which I marched I vanquished, so that it was driven from the pasture of its wells. I plundered its cattle, carried off its families, seized their food, and killed people by my strong arm, by my bow, by my movements, and by my skillful plans. I won his heart, and he loved me, for he recognized my valor. He set me at the head of his children, for he saw the strength of my arms. There came a hero of retinue to challenge me in my tent. A champion was he without peer. He had subdued it all. He said he would fight with me. He planned to plunder me. He meant to seize my cattle at the behest of his tribe. The ruler conferred with me, and I said, I do not know him. I am not his ally, that I could walk about in his camp. Have I ever opened in his back rooms or climbed over his fence? It is envy, because he sees me doing your commissions. I am indeed like a stray bull in a strange herd, whom the bull of the herd charges, whom the longhorn attack. Is an inferior beloved when he becomes a superior? No Asiatic makes friends with a Delta man. And what would make Papyrus cleave to the mountain? If a bull loves combat, should a champion bull retreat for fear of being equaled? If he wishes to fight, let him declare his wish. Is there a God who does not know what he has ordained, and a man who knows how it will be? At night I strung my bow, sorted my arrows, practiced with my dagger, polished my weapons. When it dawned, retinue came. It had assembled its tribe. It had gathered its neighboring peoples. It was intent on this combat. He came toward me while I waited, having placed myself near him. Every heart burned for me. The women jabbered. All hearts ached for me, thinking, is there another champion who could fight him? He raised his battle axe and shield, while his armful of missiles fell toward me. When I had made his weapons attack me, I let his arrows pass me by without effect, one following the other. Then when he charged me, I shot him, my arrow sticking in his neck. He screamed. He fell on his nose. I slew him with his axe. I raised my war cry over his back, while every Asiatic shouted. I gave praise to Monty, while his people mourned him. The ruler, Ameneneshi, took me in his arms. Then I carried off his goods. I plundered his cattle. What he had meant to do to me, I did to him. I took what was in his tent. I stripped his camp. Thus I became great, wealthy in goods, rich in herds. It was the God who acted so as to show mercy to one with whom he had been angry, whom he had made stray abroad. For today his heart is appeased. A fugitive fled his surroundings. I am famed at home. A laggard lagged from hunger. I give bread to my neighbor. A man left his land in nakedness. I have bright clothes, fine linen. A man ran for lack of one to send. I am rich in servants. My house is fine. My dwelling spacious. My thoughts are at the palace. Whichever God decreed this flight, have mercy, bring me home. Surely you will let me see the place in which my heart dwells. What is more important than that my corpse be buried in the land in which I was born? Come to my aid. What if the happy event should occur? May God pity me. May he act so as to make happy the end of one whom he punished. May his heart ache for one whom he forced to live abroad. If he is truly appeased today, may he hearken to the prayer of one far away. May he return one whom he made roam the earth to the place from which he carried him off. May Egypt's king have mercy on me, that I may live by his mercy. May I greet the mistress of the land who was in the palace. May I hear the commands of her children. Would that my body were young again, for old age has come. Feebleness has overtaken me. My eyes are heavy, my arms weak, my legs fail to follow. The heart is weary, death is near. May I be conducted to the city of eternity. May I serve the mistress of all. May she speak well of me to her children. May she spend eternity above me. Now, when the majesty of King Keper-Ka-Ra was told of the condition in which I was, his majesty sent word to me with royal gifts in order to gladden the heart of this servant like that of a foreign ruler. And the royal children who were in his palace sent me their messages, copy of the decree brought to this servant concerning his return to Egypt. Horus, living in births, the two ladies, living in births, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Keper-Ka-Ra, the son of Ra, Sesostris, who lives forever. Royal decree to the attendant Sinuhe. This decree of the king is brought to you to let you know that you circle the foreign countries going from Kedem to Retenue. Land giving you to land was the counsel of your own heart. What had you done that one should act against you? You had not cursed, so that your speech would be reproved. You had not spoken against the counsel of the nobles, that your word should have been rejected. This matter, it carried away your heart. It was not in my heart against you. This, your heaven in the palace lives, and prospers to this day. Her head is adorned with the kingship of the land. Her children are in the palace. You will store riches which they give you. You will live on their bounty. Come back to Kemet. See the residence in which you live. Kiss the ground at the great portals. Mingle with the courtiers. For today you have begun to age. You have lost a man's strength. Think of the day of burial, the passing into reveredness. A night is made for you with ointments and wrappings from the hand of Ta'it. A funeral procession is made for you on the day of burial. The mummy cases of gold, its head of lapis lazuli. The sky is above you as you lie in the hearse. Oxen drawing you, musicians going before you. The dance of the Mu dancers is done at the door of your tomb. The offering list is read to you. Sacrifice is made before your offering stone. Your tomb pillars made of white stone are among those of the royal children. You shall not die abroad, not shall Asiatics inter you. You shall not be wrapped in the skin of a ram to serve as your coffin. Too long a roaming of the earth. Think of your corpse. Come back. This decree reached me while I was standing in the midst of my tribe. When it had been read to me, I threw myself on my belly. Having touched the soil, I spread it on my chest. I strode around my camp shouting, "What compares with this which is done to a servant, whom his heart led astray to alien lands? Truly good is the kindness that saves me from death. Your Ka will grant me to reach my end, my body being at home." Copy of the reply to this decree. The servant of the palace, Sinuhe, says, "In very good peace, Hotep, regarding the matter of this flight, which this servant did in his ignorance. It is your Ka, O good God, Netcher, Lord of the two lands, which Ra loves, and which Mut, Lord of Thebes, favors, and Amen, Lord of the thrones of the two lands, and Sebek Ra, Lord of Sumenu, and Heru, Atum with his Eniad, and Sobdu Neferba'u Semseru, the eastern Heru, the lady of Yemet. May she enfold your head, and the conclave upon the flood, and Menheru of the hill countries, and Reveret, lady of Punt, Nut, Her Eris Ra, and all the gods of Egypt and the isles of the sea. May they give life and joy to your nostrils. May they endue you with their bounty. May they give you eternity without limit, infinity without bounds. May the fear of you resound in lowlands and highlands, where you have subdued all that the sun encircles. This is the prayer of this servant for his Lord, who saves from the west. The Lord of knowledge, who people knew, in the majesty of the palace, that this servant was afraid to say it. It is like a thing too great to repeat. The great God, the pure Ra, knows the heart of one who has served him willingly. This servant is in the hand of one who thinks about him. He is placed under his care. Your majesty is the conquering Horus. Your arms vanquish all lands. May then your majesty command to have brought to you the prince of Maki from Kedem, the mountain chiefs of Keshu, and the prince of Manus from the lands of Fanku. They are rulers of renown who have grown up in the love of you. I do not mention Retenue. It belongs to you like your hounds. Lo, this flight which the servant made, I did not plan it. It was not in my heart. I did not devise it. I do not know what removed me from my place It was like a dream, as if a Delta man saw himself in Yebu, a marshman in Nubia. I was not afraid. No one ran after me. I had not heard a reproach. My name was not heard in the mouth of the herald. Yet my flesh crept, my feet hurried, my heart drove me. The God who had willed this flight dragged me away. Nor am I a haughty man. He who knows his land respects men. Ra has set the fear of you throughout the land, the dread of you in every foreign country. Whether I am at the residence, whether I am in this place, it is you who covers this horizon. The sun rises at your pleasure. The water in the river is drunk when you wish. The air of heaven is breathed at your bidding. This servant will hand over to the brood which this servant begot in this place. This servant has been sent for. Your majesty will do as he wishes. One lives by the breath which you give, as Ra, Heru, and Heru love your august nose. May Mont, Lord of Thebes, wish it to live forever. I was allowed to spend one more day in Ya'ah, handing over my possessions to my children, my eldest son taking charge of my tribe. All my possessions became his, my serfs, my herds, my fruit trees. This servant departed southward. I halted at Horus Ways. The commander in charge of the garrison sent a message to the residents to let it be known. Then His Majesty sent a trusted overseer of the royal domains with whom were loaded ships, bearing royal gifts for the Asiatics who had come with me to escort me to the Heru Ways. I called each one by his name while every butler was at his task. When I had started and set sail, there was kneading and straining beside me until I reached the city of Etesh Dawi. When it dawned, very early they came to summon me. 10 men came and 10 men went to usher me into the palace. My forehead touched the ground between the sphinxes, and the royal children stood in the gateway to meet me. The courtiers who ushered through the forecourt set me on the way to the audience hall. I found His Majesty on the great throne in a kiosk of gold. Stretched out on my belly, I did not know myself before him, while this God greeted me pleasantly. I was like a man seized by darkness. My bond was gone. My limbs trembled. My heart was not in my body. I did not know life from death. His Majesty said to one of the courtiers, "Lift him up. Let him speak to me." Then His Majesty said, "Now you have come after having roamed foreign lands. Flight has taken its toll of you. You have aged. You have reached old age. It is no small matter that your corpse will be interred without being escorted by bowmen. But don't act thus. Don't act thus. Speechless, though your name was called. Fearful of punishment, I answered with the answer of a frightened man. What has my Lord said to me, that I might answer it? It is not disrespect to the God. It is the terror which is in my body, like that which caused the fateful flight. Here I am before you. Life is yours. May your Majesty do as he wishes." Then the royal daughters were brought in, and His Majesty said to the queen, "Here is Sinuhe, come as an Asiatic, a product of nomads." She uttered a very great cry, and the royal daughters shrieked all together. They said to His Majesty, "Is it really he, O king, our lord?" Said His Majesty, "It is really he." Now, having been brought with them their necklaces, rattles, and sistra, they held them out to His Majesty. "Your hands upon the radiance, eternal king, jewels of heaven's mistress, the gold gives life to your nostrils. The Lady of Stars enfolds you. South crown fared north, north crown south, joined, united by your Majesty's word. While the cobra decks your brow, you deliver the poor from harm. Hotep, peace to you from Ra, Lord of lands, hail to you, and the mistress of all. Slacken your bow, lay down your arrow, give breath to him who gasps for breath. Give us our good gift on this good day. Grant us the son of north wind, bowman born in Egypt. He made the flight in fear of you. He left the land in dread of you. A face that sees you shall not pale. Eyes that see you shall not fear. His Majesty said, he shall not fear, he shall not dread. He shall be a companion among the nobles. He shall be among the courtiers. Proceed to the robing room to wait on him. I left the audience hall, the royal daughters giving me their hands. We went through the great portals, and I was put in the house of a prince. In it were luxuries, a bathroom and mirrors. In it were riches from the treasury, clothes of royal linen, myrrh, and the choice of perfume of the king and of his favorite courtiers were in every room. Every servant was at his task. Years were removed from my body. I was shaved. My hair was combed. Thus was my squalor returned to the foreign land, my dress to the sandfarers. I was clothed in fine linen. I was anointed with fine oil. I slept on a bed. I had returned the sand to those who dwell in it, the tree oil to those who grieve themselves with it. I was given a house and garden that had belonged to a courtier. Many craftsmen rebuilt it. And all its woodwork was made anew. Meals were brought to me from the palace 4 times a day, apart from what the royal children gave without a moment's pause. A stone pyramid was built for me in the midst of the pyramids. The masons who build tombs constructed it. A master draughtsman designed in it. A master sculptor carved in it. The overseers of construction and the necropolis busied themselves with it. All the equipment that is placed in tomb shaft was supplied. Mortuary priests were given me. A funerary domain was made for me. It had fields and a garden in the right place, as is done for a companion of the first rank. My statue was overlaid with gold, its skirt with electrum. It was His Majesty who ordered it made. There is no commoner for whom the like has been done. I was in the favor of the king until the day of landing came. It is done from beginning to end as it was found in writing.